Hello and welcome back to the channel, or hello lads and ladies, as we normally say on this show. Again, looking forward to tonight, another bumper-packed League One show. We've got so many games to talk you through. We have 11 games from Saturday. We have a game on Monday night, which was 6 goals in the Devon derby between Plymouth Argyle and Exeter City as well, which is an absolute thriller. We had 4 more last night as well. League One is coming out of our ears as well. But we need a co-host to do this all with. And Jake is having a much-needed break. And I dipped into the transfer market. He came in impressed a couple of weeks ago. He's here. And Tom is, from 4-0 written all over it. He supports Portsmouth. I would say he's not very happy at the minute, but he keeps drawing, so he's somewhere in the middle. Thomas, how are we doing? I better take you off mute, actually, because otherwise we'd be it'd be like a one-way conversation like it is with Jake. How are we doing, mate?
Brilliant. Yes, mate, very good. I've just realised that my lights have just sort of dimmed themselves down, so I'm a little bit darker than I was when I first spoke to you, but I'll sort that out in a minute. I'm very well, mate. As you just said, brilliant to be able to speak, especially on as a result of these round of fixtures, because there's some really real corkers in there. Nice to be filling in for the man himself. He may be watching, he may not be, but yeah, looking forward to this. And it's gonna be good fun to chat through, mate. I hope you're all good as well. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, mate. Again,
Good.
New
shirt.
Just talk to us about your game on Saturday, basically, because before we do get out. What was your feelings again? Another draw, which we will come to later on. What's your thoughts on it at the moment?
Is your phone ringing, Ben, by any chance?
It is ringing in the background. Just don't worry about that. We can never take a day off.
No, absolutely not, mate. No. There's Sky Sports on the phone wanting
I'm
to speak
sorting
to
that
Ben,
out.
I think.
Do not disturb. He's definitely going on. There we
sorting it
go.
out.
You cannot disturb the League One show, can we?
You can't, mate. No, absolutely not. Were you asking about my game? Our game Saturday?
Just about your game. What was your thoughts on it? Obviously, just really quickly before we go into the stream and come to the guys' comments.
Yeah, not good enough. Same as it was on Tuesday night. So when you boys were chatting about it on your last midweek show, I think we'll have a pretty similar conversation. Yeah, nothing exciting, to be honest. Nothing to really report. I can go into a bit more detail later on, but yeah, in general, pretty rubbish, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. Again, to chat. Hello, guys. Hope you're all right. A lot of Plymouth fans in here as well. Shall we start off then? We'll start off with Barnsley, who got a great result, didn't they, against Forest Green Rovers. Forest Green Rovers, who started really well in League One. They won the first away game at Bristol Rovers by 2-1. Since then, they've drawn 4 on the road, lost 4. They're not brilliant away from home. And before the game, they were into Barnsley with 0.88 points a game at home. And you kind of look at it, if you can just try and up it to 1 point a game away from home, you get 23 points. Can you go and just better that at home, get 27, 28 points? You might stay up, but at the moment, Forest Green Rovers are looking very weak. Also, they went and didn't have a shot on target, which some of the quality that they've got on their pitch, it's just not really acceptable, in my opinion, Tom.
No, it's not. You talk about the quality that they've got for shots on target, the quality they've got between the sticks as well. Luke McGee's a keeper who played for Pompey a little while ago, and I actually think although they've let a lot in this season already, and there's no denying that, and they've let 2 in against Barnsley. I still think he's a really good keeper. I mean, you've only got to look at that lineup, haven't you? I mean, Connor Wickham is an absolute mountain. And there's goals from all over that pitch, and it's a very talented group. So I'm a little bit concerned at the lack of goals for Forest Green. I'm also obviously concerned by their slightly perilously looking league position. They're right down there, aren't they? Rooted to they were bottom of the table at one point, weren't they? But they're not anymore because Burton have gone down there, and Morecambe have got themselves off the foot of the table as well. Yeah. So it's congested in there for Forest Green. March has got 3. Connor Wickham's got 5 to his name in League One this season, which is not bad to kick things off. Is it 15, 16, 17 games into the season? I'd like a few of the other boys to be contributing a little bit, and you've also kept a real core assist generator as well. He's got 5 in 16 matches assist wise, which is really good to see. We'll see how the season unfolds for Forest Green. It's a worry for them. They're conceding a lot. They conceded 4 against Exeter, only conceded 1 against the mighty Pompey, which probably tells you more about us than it does about them. But yeah, I think I'd like to think they'd be okay. We went there a couple of weeks ago, as I just alluded to. You could see flashes of why they're a team where they are and why they're a team that's come up. They look like a League Two team. You look at Exeter City, they don't look like a League Two side from last season, but Forest Green very much do. But I think they'll be okay. I think a couple more goals and some solidity in their performances, and they'll be all right.
Yeah, agree with you. You've got to remember Forest Green Rovers, where they've come from. They haven't got the biggest of budgets. The form does worry me. 5 points from 8, which is the worst in League One, or 6 points in 10 games, which isn't great at all. You need to really double that if you want to get away from the relegation zone. And it's seeing out games. They very much remind me of Wimbledon, where if they go in front, I always kind of think that they're going to concede anyway. Barnsley, that's the 4th win at home out of 8 games, which isn't a bad run. They've got Shrewsbury, Peterborough, MK Dons coming up as well. They've got to be better going forward. Devante Cole, scored a nice little header at the weekend as well. Former Fleetwood man himself. I remember Devante Cole at Fleetwood. His best goal, in my opinion, in a Fleetwood shirt came away at Fratton Park. Again, we'll just let Tom. I think Tom's moving about.
So that's all right. I'm just turning my lights on, mate. I'm fine.
Are you all right?
I'm fine. I'm good. I'm just sitting down.
The lights are on, but nobody's at home, basically.
Sorry, I'm here. That's a bit brighter for you, isn't it?
Here. Devante Cole scored an absolute worldie at Fratton Park when Portsmouth beat Fleetwood 4-1 about 5-6 years ago. It was an absolute corker, deserving to win any game of football. Unfortunately, it was a consolation in the end. And we'll speak about Oxford now, who again got 4 points this week. We'll speak about the Bolton game first, which Bolton at home have been pretty solid this season, around just over 2 points a game. Dion Charles scored his 3rd goal of the season as well. 27 points for the whole season from 16 games, which is a very good return for a side that got, 73 points in the end last year as well, finished 9th. It did very, very well at this level. Oxford obviously went with a game plan and stuck to it. I think their worry is now they've conceded in the last 8 away games. They've not kept a clean sheet in, I think it's 14 games now, which is an absolute nightmare. You can't do that. That's not of Oxford of old. They look flat, in my opinion, yesterday. But overall, 4 points from Bolton and Fleetwood, maybe the opposite way around that they got the result. They'd probably take that right now. Just the home form, it's just 8 points at home this season, which is a worry for Carl Robinson's men. Used to be so good at the Cassan.
Mate, they knocked us out the playoffs at the Kassam in living memory, in very recent memory. So yeah, I'm very careful about what we say about Oxford, because I think I felt like that Bolton win kind of gave them a bit of wind to the sails. I said to you, didn't I, on your way down to Oxford yesterday? I said I don't think Oxford are very good, and I'm more than happy to say that. I think that Matty Taylor's been subpar this season to his usual standards. I don't think he's been the player that he normally has been. No, exactly. Carl Joseph's had to be the goal scorer really so far this season, and he's only on loan at Oxford, so they've got to be careful there. Cameron Brannigan has been quality for them for season upon season. I think you mentioned it in your video yesterday, the fact that Carl Robinson, he's had over 250 games at Oxford United, so he's really part of the furniture. He is a guy that you need to trust, and I think you want to judge him across what the whole season delivers for him rather than what's the first 15 games have, or 16, or however many they've played. Simon Eastwood hasn't great between the sticks this season. There's a few questionable goals that he's conceded. Just going back to Carl Joseph, he scored an absolute screamer at Fratton Park last week, and they've scored some good goals this season. But at the same time, the league position doesn't lie, does it? And they're hovering. They're pretty clear of the drop zone. It's just, can they look to really push on? And you spoke to some Fleetwood, not some Fleetwood fans. You are a Fleetwood fan. You spoke to some Oxford fans outside of the ground, and they were talking about pushing for playoffs, weren't they? I mean, there's still the aspiration to be back where they were. It's a bit of a head scratching moment, but they've still got aspirations to be back fighting fit in the playoffs, haven't they?
They have, and I think what's helped them is in previous years, a couple of years ago, 2 seasons ago at this point, they had 16 points from 16. Well, they're on similar to that at the moment. They're in similar position. They lost 8 of the first 16 games, and then they won something like 19 of the last 30 games and got into the playoffs on really good form. They won 7 of the last 8 fixtures. I think the one big thing is that it's not happening for them. Henry isn't scoring or playing as many times. He's aged a little bit. Matty Taylor's another one. Cameron Brannigan yesterday had 6 shots. And that was just shots that either went wide. I think it was 9 shots that were blocked. I estimated it'd be about 12. Every time he got the ball, it was literally flick out, shoot. And that was because Fleetwood played a really low block. And there was no runners for Oxford. O'Donkor did really well, on his own, isolated. It was only his 10th appearance at the football club since coming through as an academy kid. So, he was excellent yesterday, but those experienced players need to step up. They've lost player by year, if I'm honest with you. They've lost a couple to championship clubs, which, Rob Dickey was a big miss, but they've always kind of replaced them. Maybe this year they haven't replaced them to a standard that, Ipswich have, maybe Portsmouth have. And I compared them to Liverpool, and a couple of people might scratch your head at that, but if you don't replace and you don't compete with the bigger clubs in League One year on year, you get found out. Shrewsbury found that when they got to the playoffs. Fleetwood found it. Wickham are finding it a little bit now. If you don't go again in a way, sometimes that core that gets you there slowly fades away. And that's what I think's happened to Oxford. I think that they'll be safe as houses in mid-table. My question is, who do you get that's better than Carl Robinson? So if there are any Oxford fans in the stream, let me know as well. And I think that patience is needed. Now, my head was scrambled at the next game, Tom. Charlton 4, Ipswich Town 4. Now, before the game, I thought that a 2-2 draw might have been quite estimated because Charlton had only lost once at home previously, and that was on the Tuesday to MK Dons. Obviously, you found out how good they were at home the week before. It's a very wide pitch. You like getting the ball to the wingers and playing, through the widemen, Raksaki and, getting the balls into the box. So your Jaden Stockley's types of players as well. And it just turned into an absolute fiasco. Ipswich were 2-0 up, and then it went kind of 2-2. And Ladapo's third goal was very, very good. He held the ball up. He turned, he shot it. It was like a rifle into the corner. The fourth was brilliant. Then, all of a sudden, Charlton get a third. And the fourth goal from George Dobson in the end was just a looping header that went over the goalkeeper. And a crazy, crazy game.
Yeah, probably the bloke on the pitch you'd least expect to score a goal, George Dobson, isn't it? But he still did it, and he provided the goods. And sometimes that's what you need to get yourselves back into a game. And you could see by the celebration when the fourth one went in. I know it's a real style to be able to do it. So I think there was a little bit in that. But also the fact that they've managed to get back level with the favourites for the title. There's no bones about it, is there? Because they are. And I mean, when I don't know what the score was before the fourth official put his board up, but was it something like 4 goals in extra time? Something like that?
Yeah, it was 2-2 when the ball went up, and 2 goals for Ipswich and 2 goals. If you look behind the goal at the Charlton end, when Ben Garner gets sent off, it's quite full. If you're looking at 4-2 and you make it 4-3, there's no one there. You stay to the final whistle.
You do. And unfortunately, I don't know if it's something to do with the because I know there was a little bit of a dispute over the ownership of Charlton, etc., which means that the Valley's not quite as full as it used to be. But there is a little bit of a concern with how many people aren't turning up, because Charlton are a big football club.
Yeah.
And you'd expect them to be packing the Valley a little bit more than they are doing. Hopefully some Championship football returns to that part of the footballing world soon. But yeah, I mean, you on support, Ipswich sold out that allocation, and I think it was 30 minutes, Alex was telling me, and it's 3,000 away fans at that game. His videos are great watch. I'm not trying to plug other channels, but it just the reaction in the stand when it goes to 4-3 and they all go, oh, hang on a minute. And then when it's 4-4, because it's such a mind lost moment, isn't it? And you use the word fiasco. I think it absolutely is. And I think it's also one of those where you get to 90 minutes and it's only 6 minutes added on. I know only 6. 6 is still a lot for added time. But if it was like if they'd had a medical emergency, or if there'd been something wrong. Yeah, if it had been a 15-20 minute added on, you would have gone, oh yeah, fair play. There's enough time to score 4. But you just think 6 minutes, 4 goals. It obviously ended up being 9 minutes. We know it was the 99th minute that they equalised, but yeah, Crazy game. We love League One. We're going to chat about the Plymouth Exeter game in a minute, but that was a great advert, as was Ipswich Charlton. I'm not advocating to get more League One games on football because that just messes fans around and supporters. And we already know that you've been messed around in the last couple of days with your Ipswich trip, etc., etc. We've got quite a few on Sky at the minute, but I think it deserves a bit more publicity somehow because football fans need to know about what's happening in League One because it's great fun to watch. And as neutrals and as I know me and you like following the games and we like to keep track of the scores and watching the highlights and watching some of the games back to see how some of the teams are playing. But yeah, it's a real story this season. And we're only 15, 16 match days in. So that's the best news.
Agree. Again, now Charlton and El Mugs, they are unbeaten in 6, won 3, drawn 3 as well. And they got the first away win recently away at Shrewsbury. Ipswich have scored in every league away game so far, and they kept that up. But they've conceded in the last five away from home as well. So
yes,
that tightness at the back maybe starting to slip up a little bit. Maybe just need to get back to basics, keeping teams out, because that's what Ipswich have done for the last 6-7 months. If you look at the table from 7 months ago, you've got Plymouth and Ipswich. I bet you. And Wednesday just behind. I bet you those three from the last 30 games are probably 70-odd points, 60-odd points. And then the rest are probably 8 or 9 points worse off. Those three in League One over the last 6 months have just set the standard, especially Ipswich Town. And they're 13 points better off than this time last season. So it's a huge turnaround as well. Again, League One is bonkers. That is one way of putting it, isn't it? It's like you just never know what's going to turn. And there's never kind of an easy game in League One. I think that's what you'll find this year as well. Just quickly on this game, because Cheltenham and MK Dons now have kept back-to-back clean sheets. It was a 0-0 draw. Obviously, MK Dons only kept one clean sheet before a couple of games. Now they've kept 3, like they're like double-decker buses. Cheltenham as well. At the moment, they're probably going to average around about 36 points at home. I always try and look for teams that are going to struggle, who are going to be in and around the bottom 4. And that's where Cheltenham are at the moment. If they can get that and improve their form away from home, you're looking at getting another 15 points. So it's a good point for them, that. I think that they lost to Burton, which was a shocker, but then they beat Morecambe and got a point against MK Dons. And obviously, I said at the start of the week, if they can win, lose, draw, and not lose ground, you're 3 games further on towards safety. MK Dons, though, 1.25 points a game away from home, which is, quite a decent record. It's 10 points. However, at home, it's only 4 points from 8 games. It's such a Rolls reserve.
Shocking, isn't it? Yeah, that's not good at all. And you think about it. I mean, you're speaking about the away form there, but they went and got something from the Valley, didn't they? Not too long ago, MK Dons. So causing an upset there, and then being so dreadful at their place. On Cheltenham, I think there's a lot of worse teams in League One than them this season. I think they're going to be okay. But I do worry for MK Dons, and I felt like it was a little bit too easy of us to just sit there and go, oh yeah, Scott Twine is going to be such a loss. But he actually has proved to be, and the wheels are really coming off at that place. And it's a shame because we spoke about it with Oxford, didn't we? But they are a team, MK Dons, that were only last season right up there in the playoffs and almost made it to Wembley to go and face Sunderland if it wasn't for that exciting tie with Wickham, which I think you went to see that, didn't you? Did you go and see that? Yeah.
I went to go and see what I did a 10K at 11 in the morning, got a PB, rushed, got home about 12:15, literally got in the shower, got changed, left mine at 1:45, got there half an hour before kickoff. And then the next day went to Sheffield Wednesday against Sunderland in the playoffs.
Brilliant. I mean, that's we talk about your dedication, and I was impressed that you were going to Oxford on a Tuesday night. We'll play Oxford on a Tuesday night this season, but it's an hour and a half up the road from me. It is not an hour and a half up the road from you. So plaudits for the dedication. I know you all sorts of stats, haven't you, about the games that you're doing and stuff like that. So how many was that for you had 189, something like that?
Yeah, so not including the lockdown, I went back to the archives from 2016, 2017, or 2017, 2018 area anyway. That's 189 games. I missed 6 games. Now, 6 of those, 1 I had COVID, 2 I was away with college, 1 I was ill for, 4, and there's 2 more that I just didn't think I could have. 2 more, they were Tuesday nights. One school wouldn't let me go, I'm not being funny. I should have gone in with my Sony and sorted them out, really, shouldn't I? And then the other one, I just didn't have the money to go. So basically, yeah, I love football, and for results like Derby County got, 4-2 at home, moving on nicely. David McGoldrick's hat-trick was absolutely phenomenal. I think it was the second one where he got the ball, prime David McGoldrick from Sheffield United Premier League days. He got the ball, held it up, driven and shot. His third goal was even better, where he just smashed it into the far corner. And it's a great result for them. I think they've only scored more than 3 twice this season. That was against Morecambe and now Bristol Rovers. Again, at home, 2 points a game, which you want to be getting that. Plymouth got that last year, missed out on the playoffs. So sometimes it doesn't always guarantee your success. You just need to be better away from home. They've still only won 2 of the last 5 games. They drew yesterday against Morecambe. Again, I want to come to that just quickly later on, but it's a really good result over a good side. Now, Bristol Rovers, although they haven't been getting brilliant results, many victories since a little run a couple of games ago, they've still scored. I think they scored 9 in the last 4 games, and they played Sheffield Wednesday, they played Plymouth, they played Derby, and they played Cheltenham in those 4 games as well. So, they are going to teams and scoring goals. Bobby Thomas does really well, where, again, he should score the first time as well, where I think it's the Tyneside Haaland, as they've been calling him, should score as well. And obviously, Evans gets a goal as well. So it's a great result for Derby as well. What are you making of Derby this year? Because Paul Warne's gone in there and the impact hasn't really been significant yet.
No, it hasn't. He's still yet to make the impact, isn't he? And he hasn't quite done that yet. And I think he's going to be given the time to do so. Yeah, I mean, something that I was really pleased with from a Derby point of view for them on when they played. When they played on at the weekend against Bristol Rovers was going 2 or 3. My light's just gone off. Sorry, Ben. We had that last time we were filming, didn't we?
It's a jinx. Don't worry about it, mate.
It's only on. I look okay.
You can still see you.
I look okay. Yeah, with Derby County, I just like how they can go 2 or 3 up in a game with relative ease. I think that really is going to mean a lot come the end of the season if they can keep doing that week in, week out under Paul Warne. That's going to benefit them, and especially at Pride Park as well. It's because it's such a difficult place to get back into a game at. Bristol Rovers found that other weekend, although yes, they got 2 back. It's still, if they can get to, I think it was 2 or 3 within 25 minutes or so, that's going to win you a lot of League One games this season. And I think that is something that Paul Warne's instilling, and because he's had so much success at this level with Rotherham over the years. So I think he really is a great man for the job. And when they made that appointment, I was like, yeah, this is going to be the making of Derby County now, because don't get me wrong, they hadn't hit a ceiling with the previous management. I think they were doing really well. But yeah, at the same time, I mean, Paul Warne's going to get the very best out of David McGoldrick. You can just see it, man of the match, hat trick, and I just love how technical he still is as well. I just think that's so great to see that he's still got that edge to him, that flary, fiery nature to his game, that he's still getting a hat trick at however many league games he's on now is great to see. So yeah, good from a Derby County point of view. Bristol Rovers, I've been really impressed with. I know me and you share a common dislike for their manager, but I think he's getting the job done, isn't he? And they're going to Cheltenham was really good for them. That was a really good day. They had Cambridge at home a couple of weeks ago. I remember that was a good win for them. And then obviously holding Plymouth to a point is great to see for them as well. So I think they'll be okay too. I think they'll upset a few teams, which is good for teams at the top of the league, because it means that the kind of teams like your Bristol Rovers and to an extent, teams like yourselves, Fleetwood, Shrewsbury, those kind of teams this season are going to cause a few teams to go, oh, hang on, this is a bit of a worry, and then they're going to confine them to either a point or even none from a game. The good news is it will inhibit the teams at the top of the league from going on and running away with it. Basically, it will stop you like Plymouth and Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday from ending up on 20 points ahead, because it's not going to happen, because there's so many teams in this league that are going to make it difficult. You want to give a massive shout out to Chris, by the way.
Exactly.
Ben?
I was about to come to that. What a man, coming in with a £20 donation, mate. Thank you so much. He's a lovely guy, Chris. Obviously, I've spoke to him numerous occasions at the Fleetwood games as well. Very knowledgeable chap, and he's always supporting the channel. So thanks very much, Chris. It is appreciated. Just quickly on Derby, they don't get the first or the second goal enough in my eyes. I think that if they got that more often, I think they win more games of football, in my opinion, because it is a hard place to go to. The form that they're on at the moment, Paul Warne to Derby just didn't seem like a brilliant fit at the time. I still think that it might take 18 months for them. I think you might see them be maybe even outside the playoffs this year for it to really work. A bit like Sunderland was, obviously, the year after they lost to Lincoln, that Jake never mentioned it. So it's kind of hard to forget that. But no, it's a tough place to go. Fleetwood 3, Accrington 0. 3 goals in 15 minutes for the Cards. Josh Hill and Mendes Gomez again scoring last night as well, making it 4 in 6 for the Spanish.
He loves saying that. Love saying that, don't you?
The form all started at Portsmouth away with a nice little header, where Tom thought they were 1-0 up and they're going to cruise to victory. And Accrington, though, I'll be honest with you, they've only got 10 points from the last 12 games. They've lost 8, drawn 1 yesterday away at Lincoln. Harvey Rogers scoring an 85th minute equaliser. Again, but they still lost 8 games, and losing. They have lost to good sides in there as well. Your derbies. You've lost to Bolton recently, being 2-0 up as well. Quick story actually after the game that I was celebrating with a few beers. I actually spoke to Callum Morton for about 45 minutes after the game. The Ginger Ronaldo, as a Fleetwood fans call him. So just give him a little bit of tips and advice. And if he scores in the next couple of games, you know where to come. So great result for Fleetwood. They need more of that. They went away to a good Oxford side yesterday, getting a result. Also, a derby in there as well, Tom. Peterborough beat Cambridge for an own goal as well. Peterborough, one of your promotion rivals this year, they're just starting to get going, really. They've won 7 of the first 9 home games. Burton went there and drew 1-1, and Fleetwood won there. They're the only 2 teams to get something out of them. They're a menace at home, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Liam and Alex are in the stream, by the way, Ben. So nice to see 2 fellow content creators in the building.
I shouldn't do, but I've got a soft spot for Wrexham after that documentary now. They're being run well.
Good. It is good. We've already chatted about Alex's day out at the Valley, so he might have to scroll back and have a little listen back to that if he wants to hear about it. I hope today's been good at your stadium tour, mate. I'll have a chat with you later on about that. I wanted to just quickly get a quick word in about Accrington, if I may, Ben. I know you've already kind of covered it there. But once they played you and lost to you, it was 5 defeats in a row for them. And I don't know if you mentioned that in the little stat that you gave us. And then it's a great equaliser. But it's going to be one of those seasons, I think, for Accrington. I think they're going to go on a long, old series of runs where they're going to lose a lot of football matches and
then win 2 in a row to kind of
exactly get out that's going to go, oh great, we've won 2 in a row, and then all of a sudden it's going to start another 5-game losing streak. So remind me of the next game. Sorry, mate, it's completely gone out my head.
Peterborough 1, Cambridge 0, a derby as well.
The big one, the Cambridge derby. I think the standout for me is the support from both sides of those 2 teams. I think Cambridge, obviously, is not very far at all. Derby wouldn't be, would it? But both sets of fans, I thought, really brought themselves in both number and voice. I thought it was fantastic. Deserving 3 points probably for Peterborough for that game. Cambridge probably unlucky as well, because I know there was a moment where the keeper pulls off a really decent save in that game. Fantastic support from both fan bases, and it's another 3 points for Grant McCann. And as you say, they are really sort of, I think I remember a couple of weeks ago, Peterborough went on a losing streak of 3 or 4 games in the league, and I just thought, they're starting to capitulate already, and what's going on? And then you just look and they're just starting to grind out results again, and I think that's all they can ask of themselves this season, and they've got to pull off some real results. They didn't look fantastic at Fratton Park, I have to be honest with you, when we beat them 2-1 a couple of weeks ago. That was kind of serenaded the start of a really bad run of form for them, and they've, as you say, since started to pick up and kick on. So yeah, I also think it's much like Accrington, really. Cambridge have had a few really bad just 1 or 2 bad runs of losses. I mean, I remember that win at Wickham a couple of weeks ago for them, the 3-2, was really overdue. I mean, that you go to Bristol Rovers and you lose away from home, and then you lose to a side like Port Vale at home as well, and then you have Derby at the Abbey Stadium, and you're starting to really struggle.
7 games as well.
Yeah, so they are another team that are going to be bouncing between decent wins. Obviously, it didn't come for them at the weekend against Posh, but they will be clinging on to those sets of 3 points as and when they come.
Yeah, agree. There Cambridge with 0 clean sheets away from home this season, which will be a worry for them. That's not what you kind of associate with a Mark Bonnet side. Port Vale beat Lincoln City, 2 sides that are doing quite well in the league this year. Port Vale are into the top 10 now, and again 4 points in a good week for them. Dan Butterworth on loan from Blackburn with his 2nd career goal in the EFL. The other coming for Fleetwood last year away at Burton as well.
Of course it did.
Say again, sorry, mate.
Of course it did. Had to get that in there.
Of course, mate. I sponsored him last year. No word of a lie. I sponsored a player, right? And I ended up with Dan Butterworth. I never got his shirt because he got gone by the time he should have given me the shirt. But, I'm still not forgiving. I'll get Callum Morton at the end when he scores 20 goals after my coaching tips.
That's it,
I had to apologise to his, I think it's his mum yesterday, just if I said anything, because I was a little bit worse for the wear.
I tell you what, I got a lot of snaps from you, and I don't normally get that many messages after. Normally, well, I think that's because Fleetwood don't win very much. I don't get very many happy snaps off you. But normally, sorry, that's a bit not even on my own channel saying that, am I? Sorry. But normally I don't get that many after a Fleetwood game, but I got a lot that night. It wasn't anything untoward, but I did get a few of you celebrating, and I obviously got the picture with Callum as well. So if you're watching Callum or Callum's mum, Ben's a big fan. There you go.
What am I? And apparently, I was thinking red light spells danger as well. So what a night!
Wish I was there to watch
end
that.
Of the season, if we get a certain subscriber goal, we'll have to do just like a karaoke. We'll forget the copyright for one night only. Port Vale 1, Lincoln 0. Both kind of got 7 points from the last 5 games, and both are doing quite well. Wilson obviously scored on Tuesday night as well in a 2-2 draw. What do you think of Port Vale this year, Tom? Because I think they've come up and adjusted to the level really well. And I don't think they've ever gone 3 games without a win yet. And that is vital for them. They don't go on these streaks. Look, do I think that'll continue? I think they might go maybe 4 without a win, possibly 5. But Darryl Clark's sides are normally quite rigid, quite dogged. They normally quite, go on little good runs as well. And they're very hard to beat as well. They've given games, I think, to all the big teams that they played. Wednesday, they lost 1-0 to a Will Vokes screamer. Ipswich beat them 3-2 on a Tuesday night where they're always in the game as well. You only beat them 1-0 as well. So there's been a lot of sides kind of that they've gone there and they've battled with as well. And they beat Derby away from home as well.
Yeah, and, well, that was a little bit questionable, wasn't it? Because there was a few dodgy penalties given in that game. But yeah, I get the point massively. And I think that, we've already spoken about Ipswich's slightly leaky defence of late, but I think to score 2 goals against them from a Port Vale point of view is really good. You said we only beat them 1-0, Ben. We did beat them 1-0, so we take the win.
1-0. What I mean by that is you beat them 1-0.
Oh, I've started him. Here we go.
I think Portsmouth are expected to go to these sides and win 2 or 3-0. But you're on a great one. That was where your 4 or 5 game winning streak kind of came in the moment.
We're top of the league. When we won that put us top of the league.
Exactly. So it kind of thought you were in a great rhythm, and they kept. For me, I just at that point you were quite unstoppable at that time. It was like, oh, are they going to do a Plymouth where they went 20 unbeaten? Of course, I know you've only lost to. You've only lost a couple this season as well. Is it 1 game you've lost this season? Was that to Ipswich as well? 2. But I just think that. They just they keep in games. That's what I'm saying, and it's credit to Port Vale, really.
Massively, yeah. I don't know if we're just going to gloss over Jake's comment or not. And Adam's lovely comment deserves a bit of a mention as well, Ben. So we'll take that from Adam. He's a legend, big man. He's absolute legend. I just heard about yours is on the way, mate. Yours, I'm waiting to see a bit of facials.
It'll get there. Go on then, Tom. Portsmouth. Against Shrewsbury, from my look, it was a poor goal to concede. And I think if you get balls into the box and you play through the lines at Portsmouth, I think you can get points. You've drawn your last 4 home games. It was a good goal from Shrewsbury, to be fair, and you reacted really well. What a finish by Swanson in the end! Just curler in the far corner. It just seemed to kind of, it wasn't really bang. It was just like really slowly into the corner. It was like such a really good goal, and they are hard to stop those as well. But the 4 draws that you've drawn to are Fleetwood, Oxford, Shrewsbury in there as well. You know, these are sides, no disrespect to them, you should be beaten as well.
We can say as much as you like, oh, we should be beating these sides, but the fact of the matter is we're not, are we? So we can sit on our ivory tower and go, oh, we should be beating teams like such and such and teams like such and such, but you actually have to beat them, and there's no good just sitting there and going, oh, yeah, we'll be, yeah, that's a 3 points. Oh, that one's a 3 points. It's not, and I think it relates back to the sort of the competitive nature of League One that we've already mentioned. Yeah, I mean, there's it's a scrumptious finish, isn't it? I mean, we have to talk about Zach Swanson's goal. It's his first senior goal, Ben, after only his second senior appearance for the club, senior start, sorry, for the club, and it's also his debut at Fratton Park as well in League One. So really big day for him, and he tops it off in the, like, that's the best debut you could ever have at a home ground. The good news is he's ours as well. He's not on loan from Arsenal. He is ours for the foreseeable, which is great to see. So he's definitely a young talent that we're going to continually be developing and looking after. And to be honest with you, he's only really filling in for the absence of Joey Rafferty at the minute. He probably wouldn't have been in the starting 11 had he been fit. But to know that he can come up with that kind of finish, this is what I mean. Take a point off them. That's how teams see it. And
it is, Tom. I think sometimes I said to you, and people can laugh. When we got a point against you, I kind of just went, job done. And people going, you. I went, we've come to Portsmouth. We got 40 points last year, right? And got a point. Do you know what I mean? Any point at Portsmouth is a point. Even Plymouth and Ipswich, if they came to you and got a point, even if Wednesday came, any team in League One that goes to Fratton Park and they'd go, I take a draw now, unless you need to win to stay up or win promotion. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said that and not me, because I wouldn't want it to come across as if it's sort of blue tinted glasses, which is quite a lot of what I tend to say, seeing as the football club's so close to my heart. And it's the same for you. I mean, you can be as trying and being as impartial as you possibly can, but it's always going to be a little bit of a Fleetwood or a Pompey slant on things, because there is going to be. I think one of our major problems at the minute, and perhaps the most overriding reason behind all the draws at the minute, is the lack of availability that we have within the squad. I said to you before we went on air that we are 10 players short right now. We probably have 10 injuries. Some of those are big long-term ones. Some of them are kind of knocks and niggles, and we're waiting for boys to come back after a couple of games rather than a couple of months. But I said to you, there is no squad in League One, no matter how much the depth or the strength or the quality of the bench, that can survive with 10 injuries given to them at this moment in time. And with 10 boys in their sick beds at the minute, and coming back from operations and illness and whatever it is, and strains and whatever, you think at the minute we're probably playing our 4th and 5th choice midfield in the shape of Jay Mengi and Ryan Tunnicliffe. So Marlon Pack, Joe Morel was going to be off at the World Cup, but he was injured at Forest Green, and he only came back in during the week last week. Louis Thompson was sidelined by our favourite bloke in League One's team when Bristol Rovers came, and the absolute horror challenge, and he's actually broken his leg, which is not great. And that has been a couple of weeks, maybe even a month now, but it's still. So there's your 3. And then obviously Tom Lowry's not around either at the moment, although he is back training on the grass at the moment. So there are 4 first team starters in midfield that are unavailable at the moment, which is a real concern. So yeah, I mean, and also then the flip side of that is that you can't blame it all on injuries, and absolutely no, you can't. And you would have thought that a team like Portsmouth, or if it was a situation at Ipswich, or if they had the same problem up at Hillsborough, then you're kind of thinking, well, maybe you'd be able to. And I think actually from our point of view, it's good that it's only draws that we're having in these games at the moment. If we were losing them all, there would be genuine concern. But if you consider the circumstances and the context, I think getting draws against these teams at the moment and limiting any goals that we're conceding is the best that we can hope for at the moment, and I think it's the most achievable situation at the moment. And I'm glad that we have got an FA Cup game, which could be a real worry.
Yeah.
So I'm just a bit like, I just don't want Friday to come. I'm just a bit worried about it.
I agree with you. I think Jay Mingy, since he's come in, I think he's been brilliant for you. I think that a lot of your fans are getting excited about, which I think sometimes when injuries happen, it gives opportunities for those others. And you kind of think at the start of the season, I always say that people say 23. I think you need a 25-man squad. And you'll always have 3 players that come into your mind that aren't in that squad. Last year, Paddy Lane wasn't in that. And his kind of goals in the middle part of the season kept us up. One at Fratton Park, which was special as well. But I want to give credit to Shrewsbury, who have got 22 points from 16 games. And they are tough to play against. Steve Cottrell's a good manager. They also went to Plymouth in the week. Obviously, in the end, unfortunately, Rams, that's 2 long trips for them. I know Steve Cottrell hit out about that in his post-match interview that I listened to as well. I want to quickly talk about Sheffield Wednesday as well. So at the moment, they're averaging, 2 points a game, which is unbelievable. 34 points, the best off than they were this time last year. Barry Bannon's already got 4 goals, 3 assists. This time, last season altogether, he got 9 goals, 12 assists. So he's well on for kind of matching that, which is 21 goals from midfield is some taking. Now, if you go through kind of the form, they have such a solid shout for the playoffs, because at the moment, the third in the table, the third in the form table the last 8 games or so, the fourth in the table at home, the kind of second best team away from home as well. Bear in mind, that was their problem last year. They didn't win enough games away from home. They drew a lot. They got 16 points from 8 games away from home, which is unbelievable. They've got the 3rd best goals per game. They've got the 5th best defence in the league. You've got Michael Smith, who was scoring goals. You've got Malik Wilkes, who scored the first goal for the football club. His goal and Barry Bannon's goal were unbelievable. Michael Smith obviously scored again. Deli Bashanu scored as well. A nice goal as well. And they scored 4 goals at home. And what they're doing is they're beating sides that are in the bottom half of the table, which last year kind of been your problem, really. You've only been drawing games, not been able to break down the defence. And I know you've got to beat top teams, and they drew to Ipswich 2-2 after coming from 2-0 down, and they went away at Plymouth and lost the game as well. And there's been a couple of other occasions since they come down where they haven't taken on the best of all sides as well. And how important is it beating those sides kind of who are going to come in, sit in, and score 4 goals against them?
Yeah, exactly. It's the difference maker, isn't it? A side comes to Fratton Park and sits in, and it's a 1-1 draw. A side goes to, we've got more YouTube royalty in the chat as well,
I
Ben.
think is it your birthday today, by the way? Did I see that? If so, happy birthday. I think it's his birthday. I might not be wrong. I might be wrong, but I think I saw it on Instagram. I thought.
Should we say good evening to AVFC vlogger, given the recent managerial appointment? Good evening. First of all, good evening. Yes, sorry, Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, that's what I was saying. The difference maker is teams come to Fratton Park, get a draw, 1-1. Teams go to Hillsborough, try and sit in for a draw, and they get pasted 4-2. And it's just, it's just a different kettle of fish, isn't it? Three sets of their. One of them's definitely a happy birthday, Kai. One of them's
Always
definitely an attacking player. Always, mate. Always with everything. One of the 3 players that they have on 4 goals already this season. Michael Smith's on 4, Deli Bashiru's on 4, Barry Bannon's on 4. All in the league, all within the last 15, 16, 17 games, however many it is, 17 for Wednesday. So to have 3 players who have scored 4 league goals in the opening 17 games, 12 goals between them. And even, you look at the right back, Liam Palmer's got 3 to his name as well. And it's just like goals from everywhere is what you need.
Gregory as well, who missed a penalty the other day.
Gregory missed a penalty the other day. And Barry Bannon, 5 assists is ridiculous. Malik Wilkes, 3 assists. And as you say, scored a screamer to open his account for the season on Saturday as well. You're just waiting for Callum Patterson to start banging a few more in, and then you are literally firing on absolutely every cylinder that you possibly could at Wednesday. So, yeah, I'm very confident for them. The form's good as well, and they haven't lost a league game since Plymouth, have they? So, it's just it's a joke right now at Sheffield Wednesday, and they before Plymouth they last lost to Barnsley at Hillsborough, and they last lost in the league to Barnsley at Hillsborough, and that was the 3rd of September. So 2 losses in the league since the 3rd of September is ridiculous, isn't it? So it's all going well for them at the moment, and we're all backing them in the Carabao Cup for a couple of Wednesdays' time, aren't we?
Absolutely,
Yes, we
as
are.
well. Wickham now, again, a team that have struggled to get going as well. One player that I do like is Anis Mehmeti. I think he's an absolute star. Now, if in January, I think that your big clubs in League One or your lower clubs in the Championship may need to have a little punt on him, because he is he's in the top 5, top 10 best players in this league for me. And in terms of creativity, he's an absolute star, an absolute gem. He works hard for the team and he fits their system really well. He's kind of like, he's just like an imposter in a different team, kind of. It's like they don't really have players like that. They kind of have big men, kind of physical, with 200 appearances to the belt. And he's a rarity for Wycombe Wanderers. He's an absolute gem as well. It was Farino Joseph with the goal against Morecambe. And obviously, Mehmeti did score against Port Vale last night, with Lewis Wings scoring as well. It's 2 points at home against 2 sides that you'd be expecting Wycombe to pick an extra 4 points up from as well. So they've lost 7 of the first 17 games, Wycombe, which is so unlike Wycombe. And it's just really frustrating for them right now. You talk about Wycombe before we quickly move on to Morecambe.
Yeah, Wycombe aren't scoring enough goals for me, and that's one of the very simple, basic principles of football. Oh, he's still here. He hasn't left us yet, Ben. He's still here up in the cods.
No play at
Wycombe have.
Portsmouth just yet, though.
You what?
He's not put a play at Portsmouth yet, has he?
He hasn't put a play at Pompey. No, well, it's no surprise there, to be honest, mate. I know which team he'd rather be winning, Fleetwood or Pompey. I'm sure we all know that. Yeah, Wycombe are scoring far too few goals for me, and I know they've scored 2 at home to Cambridge, and they've gone on to lose the game. Mehmeti, Ben, you're absolutely right about him. 7 league goals already. That's almost Colby Bishop, which is magical. So I'm not, trying to say that Colby Bishop's the best player in the league by far from it. But, in terms of goal scoring record, 7 is a good number. And it's just a shame that contribution isn't quite striking force wide for them. Sam Vokes isn't quite coming out with the numbers already this season, is he? And, the whole conversation can't revolve around not scoring enough goals. But as we've already mentioned tonight, if you want to be up there fighting fit where Wycombe were in the last couple of seasons in terms of a playoff conversation rather than a mid-table conversation, then you want to be turning 1-1 draw against Morecambe, 2-2 for Port Vale. And even, you could even say a 1-1 against Peterborough. If they want to be in that playoff conversation, that needs to be a win there too. And then they can't go and lose games at home to Cambridge, can they? With full respect to them, they've fallen on really tough times so far this season, haven't they? Although they had a really good start. So yeah, that's Wycombe for me. And then you wanted to chat about Morecambe.
Yeah, I think Morecambe although they're not getting results and they've only won twice this year, I think there's a togetherness building at Morecambe. To go to Wycombe and be 1-0 down and get a goal through Adam Mayer, the young lad who's come through their academy. And, the goal was kind of a very weird one, straight from a corner, it seems, as well. And, he came off the bench and he played yesterday as well. So it's good to see a local lad do well. They've picked up 5 points from the last 4 games, Morecambe, which slowly improving. They beat Barnsley and got a very good point last night against Derby. The types of play that they got, the Phillips. It was Jensen Weir yesterday with the goal. It was a very nice goal as well. And then they could see 2 penalties. They could see the first penalty, Ripley saves it. They go down the other end, scores. And then the second penalty, how's that's a penalty? It's an absolute joke. It's a foul on the Morecambe man. Then all of a sudden you've got a second ball that Morecambe don't deal with. Then it's a penalty, never a pen in a million years. And Ripley saves again. It was a poor penalty, the second one, in my opinion. And unfortunately, Derby's pressure kind of caved. He could have scored before that, then scored. But it's still a really good point for the Shrimps. And for me, the togetherness is there. The spirit is there. And that result will, after the 2 penalties, kind of say that can build something. And Connor Ripley, I've said it many times, he's not a bad goalkeeper. He's found at home since his olden days, which he was very good in League One. Unfortunately, relegated that year. he's found a home now. So I'm glad to see him doing well. Just need to start winning games of football more, in my opinion. Should we go to the best team in the league, Tom? Because
before we go to the best team in the league, our next league game is against Morecambe, Ben. I'm going, and I'm absolutely bricking it. And I think I'm right to be.
I think you said 2 weeks ago, Morecambe, I'll quote you on this, Morecambe is the type of place you can go to and the home side will win 1-0. You said something along those lines. And at the moment, if Morecambe, in my opinion, if Morecambe keep a clean sheet, they win 1-0. I don't think they draw 0-0, I think they win 1-0. But my problem is they concede, so it'll be 1-1 or 2-1 to the away team.
I think that back line's leaky, but then as you say, Connor Ripley's been one of their best players so far this season, statistically wise.
As well, on loan from Huddersfield.
Yes, he's had 4 already, hasn't he, as well? So you just think Kieran Phillips, 95th minute, 1-0, and then really struggling, aren't we? So what do you reckon? If you were a Pompey fan going up to Morecambe in 2 weeks' time or whenever it is, what would you be thinking? Because I'm flying back from Tenerife for that game, so I'm hoping I'm
man.
not.
I think that you've got to think you can win it. You're away from home, but be prepared for the worst, basically.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.
Be prepared for the worst. Now, for me, Exeter are brilliant. For me, I think they are.
Oh, is that who you were talking about? Best team in the league?
No, we'll come to the best team in the league because Exeter are phenomenal, but Plymouth are just kind of on a different level at the minute, aren't they? But Exeter 1-0 up, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, 4-2. Now Exeter City, I really like. I like Stansfield. I think he's doing the city, himself, his father, the football club proud. Obviously, they went away to a tough place. And nearly came away something. They came away at Derby with a point as well. Obviously beat Fleetwood just recently as well. So they've had a good season so far in the first tier. But Plymouth are a different animal, aren't they? They're a bit too good.
I'm a bit worried about Plymouth, Ben. I'm a little bit concerned, and I go back to what I was saying earlier on with these sort of teams and spiky teams setting up to frustrate, and your Shrewsburys and your Fleetwoods and your other teams that are going to get some surprise results. I don't think they're going to come against Plymouth this season. And Shrewsbury were 1-0 up at home park for a long time last week, and I think it was this time last Tuesday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Plymouth just found a way to go and do it. And what's striking for me, and I think I've already spoken about this on your channel, but I'd say it again because it keeps happening, that Plymouth have a crazy 10 to 15 minutes where they can just turn a game on its head completely. And they are one of the very few teams in this division. Ipswich have probably shown that quality a couple of times. I remember they did it when we went to Portman Road and we got back into the game, and then they go on better. They're one of few teams in this league that on a consistent basis can just go one better than teams. It happened against Exeter, who are a very, very good side. I was really impressed, and I echo your sentiment about Stansfield massively. I also think Sam Nombe is an incredible talent and he's going to get a lot of goals. But to be able to call on, albeit he had a quiet game at Fratton Park, but Ryan Hardy from the bench has scored the most. He scored the most goals from the bench, I think, of any League One team so far this season. I think he's got 5 or 6 coming straight off the bench. I'm just in awe of Plymouth right now as a football fan, not as a Pompey fan, because I don't want them to do as well as they have been doing. Obviously, for all the reasons that I don't need to say, but I know a lot of Plymouth fans, and I'm delighted for how well the season's doing. There's been a lot of talk about kind of the longevity of it and can they make it for the whole season. I think the main reason behind that, and I know Plymouth fans don't like that because at the minute it's all going well, and why would you question what is a winning formula? But I think the recent experience of them, I'm not going to use the B word, but not getting that playoff spot that they so deserved last season and tumbling completely at the final hurdle, I think is still on people's minds and still fresh in their memories. I think that's mainly the reason why they're receiving the accusation for kind of not quite having that kind of the longevity that they might need in what is a really tough and long League One season. We're only a third of the way through now, aren't we? So yes, Plymouth are winning in the first third, but as we know, football is a game of 3/3, and if they can manage it for across the 3, then they'll be playing Championship football next season. If they can't, there will be another team whether it be Sheffield Wednesday, whether it be Ipswich Town, whether it even might be Portsmouth Football Club, who go and get that one better and start to really get some results together. And as Cam's quite rightly said, consistency has been troubling them over the years. And I think maybe the same this season. What do you think?
Plymouth, by the way, good news. They played 17 games and they've got one more point than Fleetwood got last year. So well done to them.
Congratulations.
They're probably 9 points off the first target of the season. Now, was their target to get 50 points at the start of the season? No, it wasn't. But I always say, be realistic, get to 50 points, you build. Then you think, okay, 70 points. You kind of, try and set yourself an ambitious aim. Now, how many points did we get last year? Let's try and beat that. I think they got 80, 81 in the end and missed out on the playoffs. One thing I like about from watching them quite a bit, and it is a back three all day long. It's kind of Cooper, Wilson, Scar in the middle, Wilson on that right-hand side.
Scar's so good.
And Scar again is just composed on the ball. Now, Galloway on that left-hand side of a back three, he is vital for them. Now, Ballymumba gets all the plaudits. He scored an absolute phenomenal goal the other day. He drives forward. He's won a couple of penalties this season. He's got a couple of goals to his name as well. Defensively, he is weak, but he's a wing back and he plays there for a reason. And every time Mumba goes forward, Brendan Galloway comes as a left back to mop up for kind of Mumba and kind of will set Mumba off again. So Mumba's defensive kind of abilities are kind of helped a little bit by Galloway. He is vital for them if you need to keep him fit because he's left-footed. He's a centre half. You don't get many of those. I'm looking at Fleetwood. I've got Josh Earl, who I can watch week in, week out, who I think is very good as well. And Galloway is up there as well. And then you've got Edwards on the other side, who's experienced. You've got kind of the midfield three, which is kind of Randell and Horton, who are kind of the two that calm things down a little bit. And then you've got the mad players who just go and do stuff. Whitaker is absolutely phenomenal. I had a look at his goal. He's got 7 goals this season, which is an absolutely unbelievable amount. He's got loads of assists. I think he got 2 assists the other day as well. And you've got Ennis who scores goals as well. You've got Cosgrove who's come in and done really well, who didn't really hit it at Birmingham or Shrewsbury as well. And you've got players like Ryan Hardy. You've got players like Butcher coming off the bench. And they're just an absolute joy to watch. And they got 46 points at home last year. They've already got 24 from 8 games. The only one thing I want to say about Plymouth, I think sometimes they make very hard work of games and they come off panting a little bit because they put so much into every game to kind of you're 1-1 and they're looking for that second goal and they always seem to get the second goal. Look, they've won 11 of the last 13 games. They lost 5-1 to Charlton on a Tuesday night. They've got them and drawn the other two. The other two, Bristol Rovers away. If you're nitpicking, you're 2-0 up, you should win the game. But this is the standards that Plymouth have set. They went on a great run last year where they went 20 unbeaten. They're 5 points better off than they were this time last season. So they've kind of stepped up the gear as well. And I'm running out of words. I just think sometimes they just need to make easier work of games. But in League One, no game's easy. So that's the worst critique I can give them. Exeter, I really like as well. Kind of they're similar in kind of the setup 3-4-1-2 with Nombe and Stansfield up front. Timothy Dieng came in for Giovanni Brown, who came off the bench in the end as well. And Hartridge at the back. You've got Sweeney, you've got Key, who's a very good player as well. You've got Diabate back now for them as well. So I think both teams will be very happy with the season so far. Plymouth Argyle, in my opinion, are 50 points away from Championship football next year. You're going to get 91, 92 points. But you can nearly say they're halfway there.
Yeah, you can. And then just one more quick thing, if I may, on Plymouth. And we had a conversation about longevity and whether they do it. There's an interesting comment from Jim that said Wednesday and Ipswich have the sort of the fact that they can spend in January and whether that will have something to do with what's coming up. I think it's a worry for League One fans, but it's great news for Plymouth fans. I think if you look at their run of games, Ben, they could quite easily have run away with the league by Christmas. They've got a really, really nice run. And then post-Christmas, they're sort of... Sorry, mate.
If you think about it, they've dropped 10 points all year so far from the first 17 games.
Yeah. Where was the other draw? So Bristol Rovers, and then they
lost to Fleetwood in the last minute. They lost to Charlton. They drew at Bristol Rovers, and they drew away at Portsmouth. And in the last minute. There you are, mate. Knowledge there. I do my research. 2 hours today.
Good lads. The one other thing I would say, and I think, look, when you're playing with respect, always Lincoln, Burton, Port Vale, Cambridge, Morecambe, Cheltenham, that takes you to Boxing Day. That is, that's a really nice run of form. But then post Christmas in January, they've got to go to Portman Road. They've got Derby at home. Got to go to Hillsborough 4th of February, and then they welcome us on the 11th of February. So, there's a post in that January transfer window where we know things can change. They've got a tough crop of games in quick succession, which may see them come off the boil a little bit, or it might even inspire them and spur them on to go and beat the big teams in quick succession, and then they're really bouncing, aren't they? So we'll see. Let's see what happens.
Okay, Tom, we'll go to the table quickly as well. We did do a little bit of the Tuesday night action in there as well. MK, Morecambe, Forest Green and Burton sitting that bottom four at the moment. Most teams have played 17 games now. There's just a few 16 and Portsmouth are on 15 themselves. Kind of a couple of games in hand there due to obviously the Queen's passing and obviously international call-ups was the other reason as well. Again, out of those runs, you got Cambridge, Cheltenham, Accrington kind of slipping down as well. And then in the bottom half of the table, you kind of think that Fleetwood have improved and Shrewsbury were near the playoffs a couple of weeks ago. All of a sudden, they've been screwed back in. And, they're so close to, the bottom area. They're only, 7 or 8 points off, but they're so close to kind of getting sucked in again.
Yeah, just demonstrates the tight nature of this league, doesn't it? I'm just, it's going to be such a fun watch how tight it is, and you are never closer to the playoffs than you are to relegation, are you? It's one of those where you're in the middle ground, and there's so many teams within so little points, and there's only really 13 points between relegation and the playoffs.
Yeah, actually, 13 points between 6th and 21st, but also if you want to make it a little bit more closer, between 19th and 7th, there's 6 points between them.
2 wins.
I say all the time, Tom, on your channel, you win Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, you go from 19th to the top 10 within a week. That's all it takes. Port Vale,
unless you're in the top 6. In which case you don't go anywhere.
Then all of a sudden you kind of close the gap a little bit. But it's so much more spread this season, isn't it? It's absolutely bonkers. And bonkers, that's a new word.
Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
Oh, well, again, just talking about the top area as well, Tom, as well. I think
want that as a clip.
Deserve huge amounts of credit for breaking into the top 12 as well. Kind of for Port Vale, after 17 games, have 23 points. You kind of think that, maybe a win in the next game, and after 18 games, you're halfway to safety. Of course, it gets tougher as seasons go on, but it's been a huge, huge season for them and Exeter. Exeter on 22 points to kind of break into that area. Obviously, the top kind of 9 area are the 9 at the start of the season we'd all associate with the playoffs kind of area. And then if you're looking at teams further down, you're thinking Oxford and Wickham, who are struggling really.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It really.
I tell you what, right? I did a new feature. I did a food review yesterday, right? And my own man of the match, right? Every time I'm just going to go bonkers. Every time this crazy go on. Well,
what were you?
What's going to happen?
What were you trying to say?
Bonkers, I think.
Right.
What's it called? What are they called?
Binoculars.
Binoculars. That's it. In the end, I thought just kind of a mashup. I didn't say it. So
is it a cross between crazy and bonkers? Bonkers. I think it's
a little bit.
Isn't it?
That's my new word.
Yeah, it's a new word. Bonkers. Right. Yes. Sorry. Back to less important things. I think first of all, what I would say is for 2 of the teams that have come up from League 2 to be 10th and 11th right now is lovely to see. Port Vale and Exeter deserve an awful lot of credit. Bananas and bonkers, that's better. Not crazy and bonkers. And crazy and bonkers. Crazy and bonkers, but bananas and bonkers is quality.
Me head frazzled.
That's the new Wigan have scored for me, mate. I loved that. That was a wonderful moment. Right, you could say it's a bonkers moment. Top six for me is not going to change very much personnel wise.
No, I agree with that.
I don't think those teams, that set of six, are going to change. What I do think will change is the order in which they're placed
Yeah,
currently. But again, even that isn't going to change an awful lot. Maybe you could say there's the shout for Derby to get in there. I think Barnsley have already lost 6 games. So have Peterborough. That's almost slightly too many. When you think that Plymouth, Ipswich, and Sheffield Wednesday have all not lost more than 3, we've only lost 2. You're looking at those teams that have lost the fewest within that, because it's a decent crop of fixtures. You can take 17 games and draw some comparisons now, can't you? So if you say that teams are only losing 2, so the 3 teams that have lost 2 games this season out of their 17/15 are Plymouth, Ipswich, and Pompey. And that's not me trying to find a stat to include my own team in. I'm just saying that you look at that losses column and you think those are the teams that are, although we've fallen off the board a little bit recently, and we've already discussed the reasons for that, and we've lost far fewer than a lot of we've won far fewer than a lot of those teams. Plymouth have won 13 games, we've won 7, so they've nearly won twice as many games as us, which is crazy to think. And that is the difference between first and fifth for me personally, is that the win to loss ratio and how that's going to play out as the season goes on. You also look at that, and the top 5 have all conceded within 2 or 3 goals of each other. So Plymouth let in 19, Ipswich let in 18, Sheffield Wednesday 16, Peterborough 19, Pompey 17. It's very, very closely matched, and it's going to be a case of splitting hairs. And we know it's going to be those top 6 teams for me don't change come the end of the season, other than maybe swap down Derby for Bolton. But yeah, bonkers at the top.
Yeah, love that. Again, sorry, mate, you went for a minute. I thought, oh, is he gone? Is he gone? No, I agree with that. I think Bolton deserve a lot of credit, because I think they are a good side and they're better than people expect them to be. Portsmouth and Peterborough, I think, can pull runs together. I just think that Portsmouth needs to win more games of football, a bit like my team Fleetwood as well. You say that you can. Look, it's not going to happen, but you could lose 15 games a season and win the league with 90 points, win 30 games or 91 points. You know what I mean? So it doesn't always kind of work out. I think kind of sometimes it's a balance. Obviously, you want to turn losses into draws and draws into wins when you're kind of going for different things as well. So I agree with you there. We are going to go into a 5-minute Q&A before we finish as well. But before we do so, Tom, give yourself a little plug, because you're doing some excellent stuff on channel at the minute, which I always enjoy coming on. I enjoyed coming on at Fratton Park as well. And what can they expect from you?
We've got 2 things going at the minute. It's obviously the normal videos that you'll see from a Fleetwood point of view on Ben's channel. You will also see, love that from your mum, by the way. That's lovely. What a gem. And from Joe as well. Thanks, Joe.
Legend, Joe.
Yeah, you'll see similar stuff to what I do for what you do. Sorry for what I do from a Pompey point of view, and then we also have 4-0 Sunday Live, which is a little bit similar to this. And we like having people like you on. I get Jake on. Unfortunately, sometimes Jake has to come on because we have to play Lincoln, and there's all that kind of thing that goes with it. Jack on, and then a whole host of my mates who go to the football with me to watch Pompey play. So that's good fun as well. We are probably 30 away from 12k now, which is great. Hoping to hit that after the FA Cup game. FA Cup video goes out on Saturday. So if you want to come and join us for the ride, I'm sure we have quite a lot of audience share anyway. So it's probably not really worth doing the plug regardless.
Oh, it is. You never know. Go and give him a subscription. He's a bit down on himself. Go and give him a subscription. 30 away. There's 69 in here. There's 69 in here. Fleetwood took 69 yesterday. And I can tell you, Fleetwood did not take 69. There was about 50 in that stand. And half were players' family. So, but go and give him a subscription as well. And if you're new to this channel as well, we are 229 away from 10k. And if we get 10,000 subscribers by December 1st, a little giveaway. I've obviously wrote a book, which there is a video coming out very soon. The Prem de la Prem of all things Premier League football. My dad's a caricature artist. He draws players like Heung-min Son, who I've wrote about personally, one of the best players in this Premier League at the moment as well. You've got, players like Harry Kane, the best striker in world football, in my opinion. Barry and Howland, you've got 2 meter Peter. So if you are wanting a copy of one of these, just give me a message on social media. They're available on Amazon, Waterstones, all good bookstores as well, and available for myself. But if we hit 10,000 subscribers, we'll give a free copy of those away as well. We'll get into a Q&A then, Tom. Shout out to Tom. There you are, mate.
Can I just say, that would make a great Christmas present for a football fan, by the way. So get involved in the giveaway. Absolutely.
There you go. That's what we want to do. Watch your channel. It's 4-0 written all over it. Go and give us a subscription.
It was on there before. Oh, if you come off the comment, do their names appear again?
Say again, mate.
There you go. Sorted.
There you are. It is available on Amazon, but it's a bit dearer on Amazon. So if you order through myself, it's a little bit cheaper through myself. So it's 20 odd quid on Amazon because they take a big cut of the profits. It's $19.95 through myself, and again, it's three and a bit quid for postage. But if you are near me, I will deliver it to you personally as well. If you're wanting a copy as well, I thought it'd be a shine of Fleetwood shorts. That I would never do that. That's child cruelty as well. So put some questions in before we go as well. Paul's becoming 3rd or 4th. I think you'd take 4th now, wouldn't you? Because like in the playoffs.
No.
2nd.
We don't want 4th, Ben. No.
Do you really think you're gonna? I think they're a good side, but the way Ipswich and Plymouth are playing. If someone offered you a magic tool, 46 games, you're 4th in the playoffs, and say you played Peterborough now, you swap plays with Peterborough, you're away at Peterborough 3rd, and you play them at home 2nd, would you take it?
I'm just envisaging Sheffield Wednesday at Wembley, and that obviously that would be a carnage day, but you got to think about it. There are 3 better teams in the division than Pompey, at least right now. Yes, but 3rd or 4th, we'll see. Let's see where we are post January transfer window. Let's see what that final little run-in looks like. And as I said, it's going to be a case of splitting hairs. But playoffs, I think, is going to be.
Imagine Plymouth final at Wembley.
We'd lose that. I would imagine we'd probably lose it. If I'm honest with you.
Imagine penalties again.
The reason why I say lose it, Ben, is because we've got a horrible record in the playoffs, not just in general, but against Plymouth specifically.
Oh, yeah, League 2 playoffs a couple of years. They beat didn't they beat Wimbledon? Or they lost to Wimbledon? They lost to Wimbledon the one after they beat you, didn't they? I think Fenway scored the penalty.
Yeah, they didn't win the playoffs that year, but they did beat us. We beat them in the first, or it was a draw 2-2 in the first leg, and then they beat us at home park. It was one of the worst days of my life. Owen's asked about, I think that's a comment about Joe Pigott. Good, impressed, like him a lot. We're lucky to have him. Pleased that he can play in the FA Cup on Friday. So thank you to Ipswich for letting us play a lone player in a cup tie, which we've kind of struggled to get sort of confirmation from Spurs on some of our other lone players, like Dane Scarlett. Yeah, he's good player. I know he didn't quite hit it off at Ipswich, and you probably could argue that hasn't quite taken off at Pompey yet. But I mean, the give him a little bit of time to kind of mix in with Colby Bishop and start to play a little bit more football. He was excellent away at Sheffield Wednesday first game of the season. Since then, haven't seen enough of him to give you a proper opinion on it, I'm afraid.
Perfect. And that is the end of tonight's show. I hope you have enjoyed it.
Bye,
We're done. 75 minutes. Again, a big thanks to Tom for coming on for the absence of Jake. Jake will be back next week as well. We're just giving him a little bit of a rest as well. So much League One content coming your way as well. It doesn't stop because the World Cup stops. Fleetwood carry on as well. So many big games coming up as well. Tom, any final words, mate?
I'm just gutted that everyone's going to have to sit through Jake again next week, Ben, to be honest. I really
We'll get you back on, don't you worry. You'll be back on soon, and we'll, sooner or later, we'll have to put him on the, on the loan mark and hope that someone snaps him up.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks to everyone for your nice comments about what we've been chatting about tonight. Thank you to everyone for getting involved tonight as well, because as Ben will tell you, the show is nothing without you watching at home. So thanks for joining us, and thank you for having me. Take care. Play up Pompey. There you go.
Love that. And thank you for you guys at home. Thank you to Chris for the donation as well. Big respect for that as well. Thanks for all your lovely comments, for keeping us engaged as well. There's not much content on League One on YouTube or in general as well. So if you could keep supporting the channel as well. We're getting closer to 10,000 subscribers. Go and give this man a subscription as well below. 4-0 written all over it. I'll link it in the description as well. A big over and out from me. And again, the show goes on. We'll be back on Saturday for the visit of Oxford City at home. 2 auctions in a week. We are spoilt, lads. And big over and out. Thanks very much for watching. Up those cards.